We have President de Klerk on his deathbed releasing the explanation that in fact there was a gentleman's agreement that no political actor was going to be held accountable for the crimes against humanity.
Good morning, guys. Good morning once again. Welcome to South Africa Lately, a channel that discusses South African trending news. We do, however, KAYBEE and there from international news when it is trending enough to be brought here. Please do understand that I am not a politician. I do not have deep knowledge in politics. However, I am a South African citizen who's also a voter, and I do believe that my views count when it comes to political affairs of our gorgeous country. Guys, we just need to get our country in order so that we enjoy this beauty, because now, hey child, the way things are going. Anyway, President Cyril Ramaphosa is currently facing criticism because of the formation of the Commission of Enquiry. No, I'm not laughing. You know, there has been a lot of Commission of Enquiries and I can't keep up with the number. And when I saw this one, I was like, why would, because for me, President Cyril Ramaphosa is ANC, why would the ANC resort to using this to score political points? It did not make sense to me. And I was like, nah, they just shouldn't, because they have lost that time. They're no longer enjoying that privilege of playing around. For them to get the people back, they need to address the serious concerns that South Africans have and do them like it was yesterday and just basically learn a new thing because that would be a new thing for the ANC. I'm telling you right now. And when you look at this current situation, like we survived, we survived this leadership for the longest time. Anyway, and then I get to understand the explanation that is being given by Dr. Ramphele. And I was like, she's right. Regardless of the people dragging her, saying that way is a hang, because this is what we do in South Africa. We don't listen to the people we don't like or the people that we don't support, even if they make sense. Because now coming out here to say him, failed ahang or the old ahang, whatever people are saying, they are losing what this lady is saying. And also what she's saying, it matches with somebody that is from the office of the presidency when they are saying why they have set up this commission of inquiry. And Dr. Mamphele says they are protecting themselves as a collective, as the ANC. And we saw that with the Zondo Commission, that nothing is happening. Which means a collective comes first, because they all know what they all did last summer. Hey guys, we are finished. Anyway, guys, I don't want to, I've already spoken a lot. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to leave you watching why the Commission of Enquiry was formed. And then please do listen to Dr. Ramphele and see if she's not making valid points there. And then I'll be back right at the end with my closing commentary.
This matter of allegations against improper influence in delaying or hindering investigations and prosecutions into apartheid crimes have persisted from the previous administrations. Through this commission, the president wants to get to the bottom of the facts and have this matter brought to finality. We are very close to announcing the head of the commission. We are finalizing that process. Quite soon, we will be making an announcement on the head of the commission as well as the terms of reference that the commission will cover. I can inform you, as we've mentioned in the statement, that what we are looking at is a much broader scope of inquiry that goes beyond the families that have brought or have applied to have this matter or aspects of this matter heard in court. And so the scope is much broader, and the terms of reference will go beyond the issues that cover the current victims' families that have come forward.
Are you able to unpack for us the role of the NPA? Of course, the TRC handed over a list of several hundred cases to state prosecutors for investigation, but many were never pursued, sadly. What role will the NPA play now? Of course, you know that they've also been very criticized about the lack of action.
Well, that's the purpose of the commission, is to look at the allegations of improper influence and to understand if there was any deliberate attempt or action, for that matter, to hinder these investigations and prosecutions. And so at this stage, we cannot speak to any specific role of a particular organization or state agency until such time we've allowed the commission to get to the bottom of the facts in the process of the inquiry.
Perhaps also clarify, Vincent, why the government, as we are reporting, will ask for the family's application to be suspended pending the commission's findings. I suppose it's very difficult, particularly given the fact that there is no time frame at this stage. But what exactly does that mean?
Well, the families have launched an application in court, or instituted an application with respect to one, unlawfulness with regard to the alleged improper influence in delaying the investigation and prosecution of these apartheid-era crimes. Secondly, the families are seeking constitutional damages. Now, as a government, we feel that those matters belong to the ambit of the commission, which is about to be established, and it's matters that we believe will get a proper handling through the commission. And so we will be then seeking that that application be stayed pending the outcome of the commission.
This announcement, does come at a very important time in South Africa's history, given this month that is Freedom Month. And perhaps as we wrap our conversation, Vincent, what message do you think that this sends, or perhaps even says, to the victims, to the families, 25 families and those survivors, and perhaps even to the future generations, in fact, when you look at how justice has been delayed for nearly 3 decades in this matter, and still we are met with legal processes like this inquiry instead of some form of decisiveness?
Well, the president deeply appreciates the anguish that the victims' families have gone through over the years in their attempt to find closure and seek justice. And so what this announcement says is that it is about time that we get to the bottom of these matters, that families find closure and find justice that they're seeking, and that we can, move beyond these issues and continue to reconcile our nation and continue to build social cohesion and continue to work our way through past the scars of apartheid that have been inflicted on multiple generations.
The behavior of the ANC vis-a-vis the TRC would be very skeptical about why at this late hour is President Ramaphosa wanting to set up a judicial inquiry on matters that are before the courts already. Let's remember, the ANC refused to collaborate with the TRC from the beginning. They refused to accept accountability for the individuals for abuses of human rights, as was the brief of the TRC. Second, President Mbeki refused, in fact, went to the courts to stop the release of the TRC, which failed, and the report was released, and President Mandela was very much in favor of the release of the report. Then Pikoli, who was the head of the NPA, was blocked systematically by Minister Mabandla under President Mbeki from pursuing those who had not gotten amnesty and or those who didn't even apply. And finally, we have President de Klerk on his deathbed releasing the explanation that in fact there was a gentleman's agreement that no political actor was going to be held accountable for the crimes against humanity as part of the settlement, which boggles the mind. But finally, Vincent Magwenya must explain to Mr. and Mrs. South Africa why they should trust that this Commission of Inquiry and its recommendations will receive the attention it deserves when we spend R1 billion as a society to fund state capture report, which the Chief Justice worked so hard, the Zondo Commission. The report is still not visibly being applied. Instead, President Ramaphosa has appointed people who were fingered in that report, in his cabinet, and some of them are in parliament. Yeah. Why must I, as a citizen who is really ashamed of the delay in justice for the likes of Alata and others, I just believe that those families should say no to the inquiry and insist on their right to have that settled.
Especially when you consider that there are no real clear time frames, as I've posed that question to Vincent Magwenya earlier on. Just talking about the families, the 25 families who brought this court case speak of decades of trauma and erasure. What does true restorative justice look like for them today? I mean, is it prosecution? Is it reparation? Public acknowledgement, perhaps? Or is it something deeper?
I've always maintained that the first thing about trauma is acknowledgement. And the ANC refuses to acknowledge the trauma it has visited on people in exile, but also the trauma it has visited on people here in South Africa post-1994 through delayed justice. Justice delayed is justice denied. And third, the ANC has a culture of failure to be accountable. The idea of collective accountability is it's a nonsense, because it shields members of the party from becoming accountable. That's the reason why the Zondo report is being held in abeyance by the same president who now wants us to entrust him with a 3-decade-long delayed justice process. I just hope that each and every one of those families must insist on the Constitutional Court settling this matter and not taking it back into the political process. The ANC must, for a change, accept accountability. And this president, what he's trying to do is to shield the ANC from being exposed for its failure to make sure that people get justice.
I want to stay on that point of accountability and perhaps also revisit, Dr. Ramphele, what you said earlier on. So in this inquiry, we understand it will also look into investigate allegations of improper influence, as we've heard, to prevent the prosecution of these apartheid-era crimes. You've also called the state's failure to act on the TRC referrals a betrayal. What, in your view, then, allowed that betrayal to persist for decades across successive democratic government? You mentioned, of course, that the ANC now must take accountability.
Well, the betrayal comes from the love by the ANC of power over and above justice. That's become very clear if you look at the history of governance in our country post-1994. They would rather protect their politically connected people than see them being held accountable. It started with Nkosazana Zuma with that big kadunte of giving money for a play, which was really wasteful expenditure. And instead of saying to her, that's not the way to do it, she was protected and continued to be a cabinet minister. We've had a long history of this. And President Mbeki really is amazing that he should even try and deny this when he was the man who even tried to stop the report from being released. So I just believe that South Africa deserves to see the end of this road. This unfinished business of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission must not be blocked by this bureaucratic institution of commissions of inquiry. There is no need for inquiry into whether or not Thabo Mbeki blocked this. De Klerk tells us that. He can't just manufacture this. Bigoli tells us this. So why are we wasting money on proving what is obvious? That's how it rolled out. So we just have, as South Africans, to insist on the ANC for a change, to take accountability and allow those who are found guilty of human rights abuses and corruption and many other things that are part and parcel of the poor quality of governance we have received under the ANC. Yeah. They have to be held accountable.
I mean, in terms of what you're saying now, it does.
This really looks like the protection of the gentleman's agreement and protecting the ANC as a collective. That is why they fight each other so much, so that they stay within the collective as long as the ANC is in power, so that they get that protection, which means it's the license to do whatever you do and you still get protected. You don't get to pay for what you did, because we all know what all of us did. So no one is pure, no one is clean. And this really looks like the families are being blocked from going to the Constitutional Court so that all can be revealed. If they can go to this extent, if this is true, if they can go to this extent to protect that, it makes one wonder what is the content of what they are trying to cover, what is in there. Now it makes one curious. And it's something that Dr. Ramphele said. They said the families must reject this. And I hope they do too. I really do. So that we stop this thing, because this protecting the collective, that is the ANC leaders doing all sorts of things and then they get protected, it gets done at the expense of our country, and it gets done at the expense of ordinary people like me. You see, so this does not look good. It really does not look like they are trying to score political points, because that would be so obvious. Because we know people, they always go there and say, archives, where are you? Please bail us out from this one. Let the people look at apartheid and see nothing else but apartheid. You see, we cannot forget what happened during that time. It is too early to forget. It will take generations and generations. It is still too early. But at the same time, it should not be used as a shield by our own leaders to hide behind when they have done things that they should be punished for. Do you get what I'm saying? That was spiritual. Anyway, guys, whatever your own views are, kindly share them in the comment section. I'll be looking forward to reading those. And also, I really appreciate you watching my videos. And if you have time and you're on Wi-Fi, kindly watch my ads in full. That support really goes a long way. Not to forget to say thank you guys for 7,000 subscribers. We're on the road to 10,000 subscribers. When we reach the 10,000 subscribers, I'm going to try something differently. I'm going to go straight to politicians and get some certain answers. No, but we have to have ESA's tunes here, like plus minus 10k subscribers. Anyway, guys, ndiyabulela kakhulu. Nibe nemini emnandi.